There's an idea that's become quite popular in recent years in the West. I first heard it from Dr. Wayne Dyer. I don't know if that's where it originated from, but it's this phrase, I am in this world, I'm not of this world. Or vice versa, I am not of this world, but I'm in this world. And this is the idea that you are a soul or a spirit or an energy, and that you've sort of plopped yourself inside this skin suit behind the eyes, and from there you are hearing sounds and using that skin suit to feel feelings and using the eyes to see things, but that the sort of true essence of what your body is and what's animating it is not from the world. And I think that this often causes a lot of issues with how people then interact with the natural world and even with others. They see others as something completely outside of themselves, that there's not really a connection, maybe between family, maybe even between friends and loved ones, but strangers on the street and those in distant, faraway lands, they lack all connection to you as an individual because you are this one point of consciousness that just kind of got plopped into the world, and the whole world is alien to you because you are not from here. And so this ends up manifesting not only in this way with other humans, but it manifests its way with any creatures and even the earth itself, in the sense of you feel that you have to dominate it, that you have to explore it, that you need to get it under control. You need to burn those forests, and you need to dig these holes, and you need to flatten this portion of land, and you need to make perfectly sharp right edges in these areas. And then it expands out into the universe, where you need to learn how to travel through space, and you need to be able to colonize Mars, and all of these things that sort of put you at odds with all other living beings, the Earth itself, and then the rest of the universe itself, because it's, again, this idea that you are actually this invisible point of energy or consciousness or whatever, and you come from elsewhere, right? So all of this is foreign to you, and so you need to control it. And not only that, but none of it is of your making. You were just kind of landed here, and whatever was already in place was in place, and you had nothing to do with it. And so you're having to navigate something that you didn't have any part in creating. I tend to think that it's very much the opposite of that. Let me talk a little bit about a few things that Alan Watts says about this exact subject. So, in a complete opposite way of thinking from what Dr. Wayne Dyer said, Alan Watts will say, just like an apple tree apples, that's what it does, right? An apple tree produces apples. The earth peoples. So the earth produces people. And not just people meaning humans, but people meaning any sort of conscious element or being on earth. That a worm thinks it's a person the same way that you think you're a person, because you are a position noun. You are a noun, a person, but you are a position. You are in a particular place in time, taking up space, and that is your position. So your noun is actually a position noun, just like the word there, or over here. And so in this way, you completely come from the earth. The earth is peopling, and it peopled you into existence. And furthermore, it's saying that, anything like a bird or a worm or a tree, all of these think that they are people as well, the same way that you think that you are a person. And in addition to that, the consciousness idea is expanded into things like rocks, whereby A rock is simply a different, maybe we could call it a more nascent form of consciousness. But when you clunk two rocks together and it makes that noise, that thud noise, that clunk clunk noise, that is a reverberation of its consciousness. That is what that is. So it's not that it's no consciousness, it's that it's a different form, maybe a remedial form of consciousness. It doesn't look the same as a worm or act the same as a worm, and the worm doesn't look and act the same as a bird, and the bird not the same as a human, but that these are all just different levels of consciousness and playing out their conscious activities in different ways. But all of these things, animate or inanimate to our eyes, still have some form of consciousness. And then taken another step further, and Alan Watts will talk about, you are actually so much of this universe and this world, you are actually a thing that it is doing, that the whole universe is doing the thing that you're experiencing as you. That's how much of the universe you are. And he says, in the same way that a wave is something that the entire ocean is doing, you are something that the entire universe is doing. And I love this descriptive language that he uses in one of his talks. He says, if you think about the Big Bang and it thrusting all of this energy and all of this particulate matter out and scattering it out throughout space and filling the void and continuing to expand that space outward and outward and outward and outward, it's like throwing an ink blot at a wall, and in the center point where the ink blot hits the wall, it's very dense, and it's almost so dense that it's not interesting, and it's just very, very much there. But then as you look further out from the center of where that ink blot hit the wall, you see more and more interesting designs and scatters, and as it starts to run down the wall, you see the same things. And so he says, what you are is one of the outermost edges of that ink blot that we are making synonymous with the creation or the Big Bang, however you want to think of it. And you are one of these far from the center whirlybirds. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing this all. I'm not reading it word for word, but this is the general idea as I perceive it. You're one of these far out whirlybirds that the universe is doing now that it's gone through its dense explosion in the center, and it's continuing to expand outward and outward and outward and dribble down the wall and splatter up toward the ceiling and all of these things. And you're one of the more interesting little curlicues toward the very end of that ring or area that is covered by that ink blot that was cast against the wall. And so you are the universe in a very, very far out and far off manner, having thrust matter and energy far and wide and continuing to do so. And you are an expression of all of that thrust of matter whirling through space, creating that which we perceive as the universe. The thing that it is doing is you. And that you are now one of these quirky little, magical, interesting shapes and noises and sights and tactile pieces of particulate. You're one of the outside edge interesting ones of that. And so in this way, you are not only of an earth that peoples, but you are a culmination up until this point in time of what the entire universe is doing. And it is you